Yeah, they will able to see in YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay.
So are you able to see my screen?
Right now I'm not able to see your screen, ma'am.
Now?
Yeah, it's okay, ma'am.
Great. Okay, so this is the second session for the goal setting module. And in the first session, we learned about setting smart goals and why are goals important and what are the different levels of goal setting that we have in the organizations. And in this module, we'll try to go a level deeper, wherein we'll try to ask these questions: that why goals must originate in the strategic objective of the enterprise, why there should be an alignment between the goals and the strategy. And then there are two important approaches to goal setting: one is top down and the other is bottom up. So we'll try to study what these approaches are, and then we'll move on to the characteristics of effective goals and how do we set priorities. Then we'll also talk about the four-step process for accomplishing goals. And in the end, we'll talk about after action reviews and the periodic reviews. So that's the agenda for today's class. Okay, so why do we begin with strategy? Why do you think strategy is important for aligning our goals with that? And why organizational goals should be linked with the team goals and goals should be linked with the individual goals? So why is that level of cascading important? So basically what happens is goals always emerge from the strategy of the enterprise. If the strategy is to become the market leader, let's say through rapid product introductions, uh, then there should be a cascading of linked and aligned goals from top to bottom. And each operating unit should have the goals that support that strategic objective. And without the operating units, teams and individuals are assigned goals that directly support those of their units. So real power of these cascading goals is the alignment with the highest purpose of the organization. And the highest purpose of an organization is the strategy or the vision of the organization. And that's a demand from every employee that he or she should understand the goals on which he is working on and the overall strategic objective of the organization. So that is why he'll be able to contribute towards his goals in an objective manner. So this is what we studied in the previous class, that organizational goals are broken down into team goals and team goals are broken down into individual goals. So that's just a refresher to what we studied in the previous class. Now, there are two important approaches, the top down approach and the bottom up approach. So, what is top down approach of goal setting? In this approach, management has the broader goals and the employees are assigned goals which are aligned with these broader goals. So in the top-down goal setting, when in this most effective, when the employees are quite new to the organization, they don't know much about goal setting. They need a lot of mentoring, support, and a close supervision. So that is when management tries to break down the goals into smaller individual goals which the employees can achieve. And this is also helpful when employees really don't know how to set the unit goals. For example, you go through that internship program and you might not know how to set unit goals, how to align your goals with the strategy of the organization. So that is the situation when the management will adopt top down approach. It will break down those goals for you and then participate with you in order to freeze those goals. So this is how it looks like. For example, if you have to, increase the customer satisfaction rate in an organization by 50%. So that is the overall objective for the organization. Now, how the organization breaks down this goal at different levels is what is demonstrated here. So overall goal is 50%. So at the division level, this is shared in this manner that 15% is the goal for one of the departmental units, and 35% is the goal for the other departmental unit, and this will the total of this would make it 50%. And now this 15% for one of the departments is further broken down into 5% and 10%, and similarly that other 35% is broken down into 15% and 20%. So what an individual has to achieve is just that he has to focus on improving the customer satisfaction rate by 5% in department 1, or the other individual might focus on improving it by 10% in department 1. So this is how the goal at the top level is broken down into an individual goal. You start from the top and then try to figure out the divisional goals, departmental goals, and then break it down into individual goals. I hope it is clear. Okay, so now let's move on to the other approach, which is the bottom-up approach to goal setting. So in the bottom-up approach, what happens is the employees set their own goals and the manager integrates them into the larger organizational goals. So bottom-up approach is most appropriate when the employees are self-motivated. They are well equipped to set their own goals. They know about the strategies of goal setting, and they also have a clear understanding of the business goals and the customer needs and objectives. They know where the business is heading towards, what is the vision of the company, and where is the company focusing on in this quarter or in this year. So once they have a clear understanding of the business and the customer needs, then it becomes easier for the employees to set their own goals. So in both the approaches, goal setting is most effective when the employees are involved in the process. And this involvement increases with the buy-in, and the objectives are understood, and accountability is there at every level. So this involvement is not there in the top-down approach, wherein management just gives the goals to the employees, and then there is a very medium level of participation between employees and the management, because manager chooses the goals and allocates them. However, the buy-in can still be secured if the manager communicates the purpose of individual goals and why they are important and how they fit in with the organization's larger strategy. So this is what the bottom up goal setting looks like. So in this case, it starts from the bottom and then we integrate it into the top level goal. So an individual knows that the overall goal for the organization is to improve the customer satisfaction rate by 50%. So this is how he tries to break it down. He will try to have this as his goal, that 5% is what I'll focus on in this quarter for the improvement in the customer satisfaction rate. And the divisional goal would be made up of individual goals. When two individuals they have their goals at 5 and 10% respectively, then the divisional goal comes out to be 15%. And similarly the other division would have it 35%, and division 1 plus division 2 would make it 50%. So once an individual knows where does he need to focus on, he is able to set his individual goals which are clearly aligned with the business strategy. Now this is one of the examples of the goals. So the goal is to present the new corporate website at the new user group on May 12th. So there is a new corporate website that needs to be created and it has to be ready by 12th May. So that's the goal for the organization. So in the backward goal setting process, this goal needs to be broken down into what level of activities would be needed to achieve this bigger objective. So the objective is to present new website to the user group, but then what do we need to do to achieve this overall objective? So that's the important thing. So we'll try to figure out the activities needed. So one is we might need to have a management approval over this. We might need to sign off the new website, and then first draft of presentation we'll have to prepare. Then to prepare this first draft of presentation, we'll have to define the project team. And in order to define the project team, we'll have to get the buy-in from the IT. So at each level, the activity is broken down into one further level. So that is how we get to know the activities that would be needed to achieve this bigger goal. So goal is not important, but the activities also, they have to be well thought, that what do we need to do to achieve this goal. So that is how we'll be able to come out with a clear action plan and the timelines and the deadlines. How do we try to achieve, the bigger goal or the objective? Now, what are the characteristics of effective goals? So, what do you think effective goals are? One is, we learned in the previous class that they have to be SMART, as in they should be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. But what are the other characteristics of effective goals? So the goals should be recognizable by everyone as important. This is a very, very important statement for an individual and for a team. If you don't know why your goal is important, what you are doing is important, then you'll not be able to deliver in the right way. You'll never be aligned with the strategy of the organization. So there'll always be a disconnect. So you should be able to recognize why you are doing something, for what purpose you're doing something, and what value are you creating for the organization by delivering that goal. And not only you, but everybody in the organization should understand your goals, each other's goals, and how your goals are aligned towards the overall strategy. The goals should be clear and easy to understand. They should not be ambiguous, they should not be generic, they should be very, very specific. Then they should be aligned with the organization strategy. They should be achievable, and at the same time they should be challenging as well, because without challenge we cannot expect to be motivated enough to achieve what we want to. So somewhere we also have to grow in our skill set, in also have to exert in order to achieve what we are aiming for. So if goal is an easygoing thing, and that is something we already have been doing, so at some point of time we'll just lose that motivation. We'll just be working for the sake of working. So some kind of challenge should always be there. And then they should be supported by appropriate rewards. So this is also very important. Rewarding mechanism should also be aligned with the goals. There should not be any disconnect between goals and rewards. So this leads to a good performance management system when the rewards are also properly defined. That if an employee achieves X, then how am I going to reward that employee? How am I going to, uh, boost or motivate that employee and others, that I'm really appreciating what this employee has done. So this thing is also important, because without rewards you cannot expect excellent, superb results from the employees. So that's the indirect way of having the right performance management system, that there should be an alignment between rewards and the goals. Now this is one of the examples. I'll just read it out. It's very important that our company increases its sales revenues during the coming calendar year. We have made sizable investments in training and manufacturing lately, and senior management expects us to cover those investments with higher revenues. If we can do that, the company's financial situation will be greatly improved, and it will be in a better competitive position for the future, and that means more job security and higher bonuses for everybody. So this is how one of the manager is describing the goals to his employees. Now the company's goal is to increase sales revenue by $15 million over the coming year, and everyone in the sales force is expected to contribute to that goal. Your piece of goal is to increase sales in your territory from 2 million to 2.2 million for the year, a 10% increase. I'll follow up with a written statement to that effect. A 10% increase won't be easy given the outstanding job you've done already, but there is plenty of opportunity in your territory. I'm confident that you can achieve this goal, and I'll back you up in any way uh, I can. So, you know what is important in the way this particular manager is narrating his goals? This manager touched on each of the very characteristics of the effective goals. You know, he made his goals specific, measurable, objective, aligned with the strategy of the organization. And there is a level of motivation involved with the goal, that what do employees get once they achieve their goal. And he's also trying to provide a certain degree of, motivation to the employees, that if they're able to achieve that, then what effect that has on the company's future. And then there is a reward also clearly defined as part of the goal. That means more job security and higher bonuses for everybody. So the 10% increase uh, has a clear indication to the employees that if they achieve that, what are they going to get for the company and for their own selves. So this is how effective goals should be. They should not be ambiguous, that we just give goals to the employees and we don't tell them the rewards. So effective goals also involve, clearly defined rewards which are aligned with the goals. Now, there are two mistakes that we all should avoid. One is when the performance metrics are not defined. You know, when we don't focus on creating the performance metrics and just define the goals which are aligned with the strategy. So, performance metrics, what are performance metrics? What do you mean by this word performance metrics? How do we, figure out what performance metrics are? So performance metrics, they provide objective evidence of goal achievement or the progress towards it. This could be output per machine, errors per thousand unit produced, or the time to market for the new products. They are all example of performance metrics. You know, whichever metrics we use, we should make sure that they are linked to the goal outcomes that we seek. They should always be linked with the goals. So performance metrics should also be very well defined. For example, for a salesperson, if he's able to onboard 10 new customers, so number of new customers uh, acquired, this is one of the performance metrics that could be used to uh, define the performance for that salesperson. Then the second thing is the failure to align goals and rewards. We already talked about it a lot. So many companies change their goals, but they do not follow up with the realignment of rewards. So even when they try, they often get it wrong and end up rewarding the wrong things. So misaligned rewards encourage employees to put their energy into the wrong activities. So we should clearly define the goals and rewards. And once we, refine our goals, we should refine our reward system as well. I hope this is clear till now. Okay, so now the next thing is about setting priorities. So why do you think this thing is important? Why do you think setting priorities in life is important? Why do we need to prioritize our goals? And everybody might have his or her own priorities. So what do priorities look like? So we have some examples here. For example, for someone, it might be I first do what is related to my job. That's my priority. That whatever is related to my job, that attempting to do that first is my priority. Or for some employee, it could be whatever my supervisors ask me to do, that is my priority. Then for some other one, it might be that I will finish off with the minor task and then I will work on the major task. So that is my priority. Or I will focus on the most difficult tasks first and then I will move on to the easy ones. That is again my priority. Or if you have heard of LIFO and FIFO methods, last in, first out, and first in, first out, that whatever task has come in last in the queue, I will pick that first, focus on that, get done with it, and then move on to the next one in the queue. Or it could be first in, first out, that whatever task has come in first, I will focus on that, get done with it, and then move on to the next one. So there could be plethora of ways to define your priorities, and anybody could have his own way of dealing with priorities. But why do you think it is important? Okay, so this is one of the real life scenario wherein you just return to your office and find 10 telephone calls and you have only 30 minutes that you want to give a return call. Then what is that you would focus on? What is your priority? Which calls are you going to focus on? Who are the people whom you are going to call back in the right order? So there is some kind of prioritization you would need because you can't answer each and every call in those 30 minutes. There is a limitation of time. There's a limitation of bandwidth. So there is some kind of prioritization you would need to do in order to achieve this. And you must always remember this 18-20 rule. What is this 80-20 rule? That of all the things you could be doing to reach your goals, so 20% of the current effort that you do will yield 80% of the results. So 20% of the effort that you spend, it will result in 80% of your results. So there is a very, very good reason for you all to work smarter, because 20% efforts leads to 80% of the result. So it's not 100%. So once we work smarter, we are more efficient. And for efficient working, prioritization is one of the very, very important criteria. We should all learn the art of prioritizing things. So what are our priorities like? What are the different heads in which our priorities fall? So, if you have only one goal in life that you need to achieve to successfully realize your aspiration, then life is really simple. But it's not that simple. For most of the people, there are different aspirations which cover different aspects of their life. They could be career, academic, personal, relations, leisure, financial, plethora of heads in which your priorities might fall into. So, for example, your career goal could be to become a director when you are 35 years old. Your academic goal would be to achieve an MBA degree. Your personal goal would be to become fit or to lose weight. Your relationship goal could be to find a good partner or to start your family. Your leisure goal could be to visit, let's say you're going to visit Australia or you're going to go on a cruise. Your financial goal could be to pay off your car loans or your home loans. It's quite unrealistic to be able to achieve all of these simultaneously. So it's fundamental to decide which aspirations are your clear priorities. So some of your aspirations might also be linked. For example, you might want to become a director, but know that this will be accomplished much more easily if you have an MBA degree. So they are having some linkage between them. So one is linked to the other, or they could also conflict with one another. For example, you can't go to Australia this year because you have your car loans or your home loans due. So this way you will be able to identify what are the conflicting goals and what are the linked goals. And to be able to turn these aspirations into goals using the criteria that I talked about, you'll be able to assign some level of priority to them. Each individual's personal circumstances will influence how they prioritize their goals. And as you work through the process of putting your goals into a prioritization hierarchy, you'll take into account the practicalities you face in attaining each goal. You'll also look at the different factors that may be influencing your successful attainment of a goal. And as you weigh each goal against the prioritization criteria, you'll develop a ranking for each of the goals. And by working through all of your goals in this fashion, the resulting list will provide you with your goal priorities. So one of the important method that you can use is to define your goals at the priority level, that classify them into three different buckets: priority A goals, priority B goals, and priority C goals. So what are priority A goals? They are the goals which have a very high value and they are of primary concern to you. Then priority B goals, they have a medium value and they are of secondary importance, not so important, but some level of importance is still there. Then priority C, they are very, very little value and very, very minor goals. So they are priority C goals. Now, once you have classified your goals into these three buckets, A, B, and C, now you just have to eliminate priority C goals and focus on priority A and B. And now do this exercise again for priority A and B to find out that do these buckets have any of the goals that can move to priority C, or they are the goals on which you should focus on or assign your attention to in the time frame that you have. So this is one of the very important methods and very, very easy methods that you can use to find out the goals that you should not be spending your time and energy on. So by concentrating your effort on the goals that are most achievable within your time scales or time frame for which there are available resources, you'll be able to focus on correct number of goals that enable you to work effectively. It is important to inform others of your intent also, which can help prevent interruptions. So you should always discuss your goals with your management and try to gather feedback about this prioritization as well, so that you're not going wrong anywhere. Finally, once you have finalized your goals and your priorities, that is when you start making an action plan, like we discussed in one of the previous examples for creating a website. Then we start figuring out the actions or the tasks that we need to perform to achieve that goal. So that is when the focus shifts to the planning part once we have worked on the goal setting. Okay, so before we move further, I'll just try to reiterate one of the other important thing in the prioritizing, that some goals are critical to future success and others are simply nice to have. And we all have limited resources, so we have to differentiate between critical and nice to have goals. And once we have a list of goal ideas, we should narrow the list and select the most appropriate ones. So we should start by identifying the criteria that will help us distinguish between high priority goals and the low priority goals. So we can ask these type of questions, that which goals do our organizations value most, which will have the greatest impact on performance or profitability, which are the most challenging ones, which goals are your team best suited for by talent or training to tackle. And as we already talked about, that some goals are bound to overlap, they're bound to be linked, or they're bound to be one after the other. There should be a chain involved. But when this happens, consolidate them into a single larger goal. And then we should try to bucketize them into A, B, and C level priorities. And as I already talked about, that we should eliminate priority C goals and then look again at the B goals. Are they worth your time and effort or not? If they deserve to be A goals, then move them into that batch or downgrade the rest to the C status. The goals now are on your priority A list are your high level goals. But you're not finished yet because resources are always limited. You must prioritize them once again. So this is a reiterative step. You should do it iteration over iteration. And as a last step, review your priority A goals and rank them according to the level of importance. And then commit to your final priority list A to writing. Write them down. Because we already studied that once you write down your goals, you're more committed towards achieving them. So this is not one level step that you prioritize into the buckets and eliminate level C goals and you're done with it. You have to again and again do it till the time your priority A bucket is so refined that it has the goals of highest value and of the primary concern on which you should spend your time and energies on. Now let's move on to the four-step process for accomplishing goals. So what is that four-step process? So, can anybody really want to speak about their own personal experience or the companies that they are working on? That how do we accomplish goals? One thing is goal setting, and we already learned about how to set effective goals and how to prioritize. But now, how do we accomplish those goals once we have committed to achieving them? Okay, I'm asking a simpler question now that what are your goals as a manager? As a manager, what do you think your goals are? That's a one level simpler question to this. Let's not think about the four step process, but what are your goals as a manager? Just put yourself in the manager's shoe and try to see what should be your goals. So manager also has individual goals. It's not that a manager does not have any individual goals. So a manager has a team of individuals, but a manager too has his own individual goals. These may be unit goals or the component of the unit goals that require specific skills, things that you cannot delegate, you only have to do. So they may reflect your contributions to your team members' goals. In some cases, your goals will be handed over to you by someone higher in the chain of command. Like you could be given the goals by your CEO or your general manager or a senior manager. So your goals may also include some not specifically related to your unit. For example, you may serve on a task force to revamp companies' healthcare benefits. In that case, one of your goals may be linked to that activity, even though it is not directly connected to the work that your unit does. So, your manager can have a goal which is linked to some other unit or the overall organization and not directly related to the unit that he works in. So, whatever the focus of your goals, manager should also work with his own manager to reach an agreement on them. Share Build a shared understanding of the expected outputs and secure the support and training you need to be successful. So, in addition, you need to make sure that your team members are aware of your goals as well. It's not that you only should be aware of your individual goals and the goals that your team members has, but it is good if team members are also aware of the manager's goals. If they understand your priorities and how the team's activities fit into them, everyone will be able to work in a very smooth manner and in a very confident manner, transparent manner. So that is important, and that defines that clearly I establishes that you're really a good manager if you are sharing your goals with your employees and not really working in your silo and disconnected with the team that you're working in. Otherwise, a lot of times we think that only the individuals work and managers are just meant to manage the team. They don't have their own individual goals. So that is what the image looks like to the team. But once the manager changes his outlook and conveys his goals to the team, that is when the confidence really builds in the team. And, team also has respect for the manager. It's not that he's just asking us to do the work, he is also having his own individual goals. Okay, so now let's move on to the four step process for goal accomplishment. So what is that four-step process? So there are four bigger things. That one is we have to break down the goals into specific tasks. So breaking down the goals into action items is very important, and then attaching those action items with the specific timelines. This is also very important. And then we have to think about planning for the execution of the tasks. And then we have to get the right resources in place for uh, execution or accomplishment of the goal. And then the fourth step is to actually work on the execution of the plan and see where are the roadblocks, what are the risks. So execution is the last step, and second and third step are more of related for planning and gathering the right resources. Now we'll just talk about this four step process in detail. I'll just try to brief you about each of these steps. So in step 1, you must determine which tasks are necessary to accomplish your goals. Some of the tasks may have to be completed sequentially. Like task A must be completed before you begin task B. It's lot of time it happens that you can't begin with task B unless task A is finished. So if this is the case, what you have to do is you have to put the tasks in the right order. You have to focus on task A first and then move on to the task B. And if a task appears overwhelming, if a task appears too big, or if a task appears too difficult to achieve, then you have to break it down into smaller level of tasks. Then what is step 2? Step 2 is planning for the execution. How do you plan for the execution of the task? Anybody wants to talk about the execution part? How do you plan? How do you plan in your organization? What are the steps involved in the planning? You can just type in the chat pod, or if you want to speak, you can just share your views. Okay, so the planning part involves planning out each task and give each of these a start and a clear finish date. So this is very important. Start date and the finish date to be associated with each of the tasks. Yes, exactly right, Amritesh. By taking action over the planned stuff. And planned things should always have a timeline associated. So this is what we talked about in the previous class as well, that there should be a clear timeline defined for each of the goals and each of the tasks that you have. So start date and finish date should always be associated with each of the tasks. So what are the tools that you can use for setting the timelines? Are you aware of any of the tools that you can use for setting the timelines? So a lot of people prefer using Excel, that they just use Excel sheets to keep track of the tasks, the timelines, or some of the people or some of the organizations, they also use Gantt charts. Have you heard about Gantt charts? Yes, very good. So Gantt chart is a kind of a pipeline which has a start date and the finish date. So it clearly specifies when is each task starting and when is it finishing, and it also lets you visually see what are the overlapping tasks or what are the sequential tasks. So it makes it really clear for somebody who is looking at the Gantt chart to figure out the nature of the tasks. They're very easy to read and they clearly communicate what needs to be done in a particular time frame. Then, why do you think you should have timelines in picture? Why do you think milestones are important? I'm just trying to reiterate on this very important thing, that why timeline is important. So without timelines, you're just carrying on that longer journey and you're not able to manage it into shorter, manageable chunks. So without a timeline, it is an open ended thing. Yes, you have to achieve it in a certain time period. And if you're not able to achieve it in a time period, you have to move it to the next time period. So without that measurement criteria, it will always be an open-ended thing and it will not build that sense of urgency in your team to be able to accomplish that task. So timeline is very, very important. Then third step is to gather the right resources. So, as you schedule, remember that many efforts fail when planners overlook a significant part of the work or underestimate the time and resources required to complete them. So, once you have planned how each task will be executed, you should check on your resources. Do you have the money to get the job done? Do you have the right people in terms of training, reliability, skill sets? Are they properly trained, or do they require to be trained in the kind of work that you want to get accomplished? So that level of thought process and uh, resource sync up, resource finding out is very important. The resource level planning is a very important step in the goal accomplishment cycle. Then the last step is about actual execution. So, in actual execution, you try to work out your plan. So, working your plan is what is involved in this step. This is where all your talk and good intentions must be transformed into real work. So, there is a famous saying by a salesperson that you should always plan your day and then work out your plan. So, one, two, and three steps are related about planning your day. And fourth step is about actual execution or working out your plan. So, this is the four-step process. Now, what do you think are the obstacles to success in an organization? What do you think might be an obstacle to this goal accomplishment process? Or why do you think goals are not easily accomplished in a smooth fashion manner and there are so many roadblocks, so many problems in spite of planning, in spite of having the resources? So, what are the obstacles? Yes, unplanned risk like market change, yes. And even the requirements change. If your client requirements change, then all your planning, it's just goes waste and you have to replan. You have to realign with your client tasks. And yes, economic risk, market change, that is also very important obstacle in the process of accomplishing your goals. What else? Attrition, that is also important. If one of your senior resource leaves, then yes, lack of resources. You have spent a lot of time in training the right people and building a team, and some of the critical resources they just leave in that time frame, then it really puts a blow on all of your planning and execution. So if you have done a thorough job of planning your efforts, you will have identified the serious hurdles and planned how to overcome them as well. So, obstacles can also be anticipated. It's not that obstacles only come during the execution time. So, you should also think about uh, obstacles as well while you are planning. That what if this person leaves? What is my backup plan? What if the client shifts his requirements? How am I going to deal with that? So all of these questions you have to ask during this goal accomplishment process only. It's not that you have to act when the problem has arrived. You have to be prepared to uh, act if the problem comes. So not every obstacle can be anticipated, but you can prevent them from totally disrupting progress towards your goals. You should not let them disrupt your progress towards your goals. So, before you begin executing, consider the potential obstacles that might pop up between you and your goals. Then think of possible solutions for each obstacle. The following, there are two strategies that might be helpful. If your team members are having trouble completing a task, break it down into smaller and easily handled pieces And if team members appear to be losing their motivation, remind them of the payoff to success. So once you remind them of the payoff to success, then there are chances that they'll stick with the team. They'll tell you what their plans are, what their intentions are. So you have to keep reiterating these two things. You know, the task should be clearly well defined, and don't give any of the ambiguous tasks to the team, and clearly remind them of the benefits and the payoff for success. Finally, don't make yourself an obstacle to the success to your team. So that's also very important. So managers, they sometimes create obstacles to achievement of the unit goals. So how can they eliminate these obstacles? So a lot of times when managers, they don't have confidence in the team, they try to get the morale of the team down by just pinpointing them, asking them questions, not really trusting the team for what they are trying to achieve, getting in between when they're trying to achieve their goals. So all of these things, they slow down the pace of your execution, and that is where manager is an obstacle to the progress. So good managers always convince the employees that they are doing their best. They focus on procedures instead of results, which enables managers to hope for better results without having to demand them of the employees. So, you cannot be confident of the results, but if you're following the right process, right procedure towards achieving the goals, then that is what your judging criteria should be. Because we can't always guarantee results that we aim for, but the way we are putting our strategy into action is what is important. And we should frame ambitious goals. We should avoid framing them in vague terms, which makes it impossible for the team to figure out how do they achieve their goals, what do they try to achieve for. So as a manager, we should not make any of these mistakes. And then we should also try to keep the team focused on achieving the goals. We should always try to give them the mentoring support. We should always try to figure out what are the roadblocks in their progress and all that. So I'll just take a pause of 2 minutes. Okay, so as a manager, you should always update your people regularly, let them know where they currently stand relative to each goal. And if the progress stalls, get people to face the problem and brainstorm for solutions. Should not try to play a blame game. You should always try to figure out the solution of problem. So blame game is not the good way of handling any of the roadblocks. So never ever play the blame games. Always brainstorm for solutions and try to replan, revise your completion dates when necessary, but only as the last resort. So, whenever an obstacle comes, we just think that we can move our date by 2 days or 3 days and just revise our completion dates. But that is the last resort. We should try to fill in the gaps. We should try to do within the time frame that we have agreed for. So that is what uh, makes us a good team, and good management skills are really required here to not really move the deadlines and still try to achieve what you aim for in spite of the roadblocks and the resource crunch that you face. And never ever play the blame games. You have to remember this, and check off and celebrate milestones as they are reached. So once you have achieved what you aim for, you should always celebrate and appreciate the team, and appreciate the members of the team for what they have done. That appreciation and motivation is also an equally important part in the goal setting thing. Without appreciation and motivation, no employees would stick on with the team, and they'll not really buy in with the goals. So that alignment of reward is very important. Now, again, this is just a reiteration that why goal setting is important. So, organization that makes it a priority to develop quality and effective goals will succeed in its performance management, in its business, in developing its employee skill and confidence. So, do you all agree with this? Do you think goal setting leads to developing the employee skills, confidence, and demonstrates that the organization has a good performance management system in place? Yes. Then this is what the performance management process looks like. So this is more or like same in all of the companies. The steps are the same. That one is you have to start making smart goals. Then you have quarterly check-ins. Check-ins are when you and your manager has a clear communication between your progress towards your goals, and he tries to give in the feedback that how are you trying to achieve your goals, what are the things that you could improve on, or he might also appreciate you for the way you have been trying to achieve your goals. So that is what check-in is all about. So some of the companies have quarterly check-ins, and some of them have got yearly check-ins, some of them have half yearly check-ins. So the time frame might differ. Yes, obviously it guides you. And then there is this formal coaching involved. So formal coaching is related to the skill set improvement that you need to do towards achieving your goals. So this also is a part of performance management process only. So sometimes new employees, they don't even know about goal setting process. They don't know about how to set effective goals. So there a level of coaching is also necessary, and then the coaching related to the skill set or the company's domain is also at times necessary for the employees to be productive. Then after this, you also get a lot of time informal feedbacks. So one is the formal meetings, and then there is this informal meeting. So informal meetings also give you a lot of uh, information that how are you performing towards your goals. And then there is this meeting that happens regarding your performance appraisal uh, thing, wherein you are actually given a lot of information about how you have performed during the year, what are the goals that you have actually accomplished, and these are the goals that you aimed for, and you have achieved 70%, 80%, and this is how you have contributed towards company's growth. So that is when all of these discussions happen, and then you are told about your salary raises, or about your promotions, or about your next career growth. And then there's this compensation and reward that happens. And finally, the next level of development planning begins for the next year, and this cycle goes on. So this is the performance management process. So you should remember the heads, that what are the different heads in this process. So at a broader level, you should remember that one is the smart goal setting, then the check-ins, then the feedback, then performance appraisal and rewards, and then the next level of development planning. So this is something you should remember. So goals, they are important for the annual performance journey, and if we step in the wrong direction, we'll never reach the destination we are targeting. So goals are in a way linked to the performance management process. In fact, it is one of the first step in the performance management process. So Amritesh, in your company, is this the cycle which is being followed for the performance management, or is it different? Same. What company are you working in as of now? The weekly measure? Oh, so that's even a shorter time frame. So do they give you a weekly feedback? Tural group. Great. So do you want to talk about what kind of weekly measures you have in your company? Or you can just type in the chat pod if you feel comfortable typing. So, what happens in these weekly meetings? What kind of feedback do you get? What are the measurement criteria? Okay, they ask about your customer visits and expected percentage of success. Great. So that is the performance metrics on which you are judged, that how many customer visits you did and how much success you achieved out of those customer visits. So yeah, based on this, they guide you. Perfect. But what kind of overall goals you have? So your goals are related to the customer visits that you do and the customers you acquire. So what are your yearly goals? Goal is to make them aware about what? About product. Okay. So create an awareness about the products is what your goal is. But how do they make these goals a smart one? Like this is an ambiguous thing, but what is the exact percentage of success? What is that they aim for to achieve in a year? Yeah, what's your sales target? There must be some number associated with it. Yearly, yeah. And what is the sales target? 2 crores. Yeah, so this is how they have tried to make it into a smart goal, that you want to have a sales of 2 crores in a year and have so many customer visits, acquire so many customers, so that overall you're able to achieve this 2 crores sales target. And then they put a weekly check on the customer visits that you do and how much productive those customer visits are. So the management is trying to be in sync weekly. Okay, great. So why are goals important for business? So this is again a reiteration that this is how business delivers results against the strategy. So goals actually drive the business strategy, results in an improved shareholder value, increased customer satisfaction, increased profitability. So it's not that you have to acquire more customers and increase your profits revenue, but there's some level of innovation also involved in achieving your goals. You can't achieve goals if you're not innovative. At one point of time your company will just die out. So that level of innovation also has to be built in. So none of these can be realized without you have a process, which I tries to identify the goal and link it to your overall strategic perspective. So goal setting actually tries to build all of these important factors into it. So all of these things are the outcomes of an efficient goal setting process. So you would never aim for improving the shareholder value, but it is an implicit outcome once you're able to achieve the goals that you have set. Greater profits will anyways come if you achieve the goals that you have set and they are aligned to the strategy of the organization. Then how do you think goals benefit the employees? In what sense the goals are beneficial for the employees? So the goals, they help us measure our progress, they help us be motivated, they boost our self confidence. When we are trying to achieve our goals we really feel motivated. They promote planning. We're trying to figure out the tasks that we need to do. We try to identify the resources, we eliminate roadblocks, we collaborate with our team members, try to make the things work out, we monitor our milestones and do course corrections wherever needed. Yes, it helps us in tracking where we are at a particular point of time. So it helps us actually gauge the state of progress and eliminate ambiguity. So the great goals, they should be smart, they should be manageable in number. There's no point of having 10, 15 goals in your plate. So we already talked about prioritizing them. So we should try to identify 5 or 6 most important goals. So they are sufficient to, build on that level of challenge in the employees and build in the engagement level in order to contribute towards that. So if you add more goals, that will have a negative impact on the productivity, and the team will really be burned out and derailed. It will not have a clear path to progress. And goals should always be towards your business strategy and towards your personal development as well. So both the objectives should kind of satisfy in your goals. So if you're into marketing, Amritesh, and you love visiting customers, doing more customer visits, so growing in that uh, segment is also important for you. So just acquiring customers and driving sales target is one of the business goals, but you should try to figure out that what is it you need to do at a personal level to really get better at being a good marketing person, or really develop yourself in this domain. What are the skills you need to acquire? Probably you want to go for an analytics course and figure out that how do you translate numbers into data, relevant data, then figure out the right strategy. So where is it you can actually improve? So that weaving of business results and personal goals, that is how your goals should be. So this is what will motivate you towards achieving the goals. And the goals should always be cascading goals. We already studied this, that the organizational goals are broken down into team goals and team goals into individual goals. So managers, they should take care that the employees are able to achieve the goals by following these very important guidelines, that people cannot achieve a goal that is not within their scope of influence or current capability. If you're into marketing and if you're asked to develop a code, then that is totally an unrealistic thing for you to do. So managers should not try to burn out employees by giving them a goal for which they don't really have the skill set. Tools, resources, and access required to get the work done, he should make sure that their team has all the resources and the access. So they should not waste time trying to get the access, and he should make sure that all the things are really in place. Then goals should be reasonable, and then the challenge of a stretch goal can be very motivating as well, but at the same time it can really burn you out. So you should not try to set an impossible target should always be something that you can achieve within a relevant time frame. So, for example, if you're not a sports person and if you try to say that I'm going to participate in at the state level championship, that is really a stretch goal for you. First of all, you should try to learn the basics of sport. Try to play out the sport daily for an hour or two, and then you can see whether you want to go for that or not. So, stretch goals are important, but the stretch goals should also be realistic. And managers should always be ready to offer guidance and coaching. They should know how to offer the right kind of mentoring and support. That is very important. Otherwise, your team will just burn out and they'll not have the right kind of trust on the managers. They'll just work in their silos, and you'll also not get the same level of transparency from the employees. So, that level of communication with the team is also very important in a positive manner. And never ever play the blame games. Again, I'm reiterating on the same fact. If your employees are not able to achieve what they aimed for, you should not do the blame games, but try to figure out what are the roadblocks. And at a managerial level, you should try to see how you can get better at that. Or probably figuring out the right delegation task for the employees. You're probably not delegating the right stuff if your employees is not really performing in spite of taking the steps of action for 1 or 2 time frames. That is when you should really get into the conversation with the employee to identify his talent profile and then delegate the right kind of work. Okay, so now this is an example of cascading goals. So here the business goal is to double revenues from $100 million to $200 million in the next 5 years. So this is the overall business goal. Now this is broken down into the divisional goal that one of the divisions has to increase the sales of hot product 1 by 20% in 2012. Now this divisional goal is broken down into departmental goal that they have to recommend 3 US markets for hot product 1 with 5 million potential in the end of quarter 1. Now this departmental goal is further broken down into the team goal that they have to do a comprehensive market research in for the potential markets by March 1st, clear deadline. And then this team goal is broken down into individual goal that they have to complete competitive intelligence studies of hot product 1 markets in the US by February 1. Now, if you see, this individual goal is actually aligned with the business goal, and it is also aligned with the team goal, departmental goal, and the divisional goal. So, this is how the goals are cascaded, that they are linked as well as broken down from business goals to the individual goals. I hope this is clear. I'll share the slides with you so you can go through this cascading goal process in detail. Now, the goals alignment. So these are the individual goals that one of the individual has to complete the intelligence studies of hot product 1 by February 1. The other employee has to do it by February 15. Then the third employee has to work on the pricing analysis for February 1st. And then the next one will just, conduct and report the focus group research. And the fifth individual will work on product extensions or enhancements for this hot product 1 by February 21st. So all of these individuals, they make a team, and then the team goal is to conduct comprehensive market research for the potential markets by March 1. So this team goal is aligned with the individual goals, and individual goals are also aligned with the team goals. So none of the goal is a disconnected goal. And each of the individual is contributing towards achieving that team goal. Now, once we've studied about this, review process is also important. That how do you review the progress? So there are two types of review: periodic review and after action review. Periodic review is what you talked about, Amritesh, that there is this weekly review that happens. So periodic review are actually helpful as you work towards your goals. You have to step back periodically and review them. Are they realistic? Are they timely? Are they important? You should be cautious about shifting and modifying goals in midstream. Doing so can obviously create confusion in the process, but you should not change course simply because you have run into obstacles. But if you really feel that the market requirements have changed and the client requirements are really different now, then you obviously need to do a rework. So periodic review actually helps you identify whether what you're trying to achieve is actually in sync with the client requirements or the market requirements. But if the organizational and external environment has changed, then pursuing an assigned goal no longer makes sense. It is very important to have the appropriate measures in place to redirect your resources. So there is this famous saying, when the facts change, I change. So that is what you need to do. When the markets change, you have to do a periodic review and refine your set of goals. When you need to change a goal, it's your job as a manager to justify it. Get the buy in from your team, upper management, and others involved groups before proceeding. Then the second thing is the after action review. So once you have accomplished a goal, celebrate your team's success and publicly recognize the people who did the work. So celebration and praise re energizes the people and prepares them mentally for future initiatives. Reaching a goal is not the end of the process. So you and your team should take the full credit that typically follows the goal achievement and what you plan for and execute it for. So everything needs a round of applause: your planning, your execution, your resource sync ups. So ask yourself and your team questions like these and record these answers. This will really help you get better, that what worked, what did not work. Has reaching the goals produced the payoff that you and your team anticipated? If we had to do this again, what is that we could do differently? Was the team given sufficient resources and authority to do the job well? What lessons from this task can be carried over to the future tasks to make them faster, better, less expensive? So these are just examples of your questions that you can ask. So this will help you get better the next time. So lessons learned from after action reviews are extremely valuable. Get people on your team to talk about and internalize them. Then apply those lessons as you develop new goals. And also consider these points as you move forward, that if the previous goal was too easily achieved, make future goals more challenging. And if the old goal looked too much effort, make new goals a little easier but challenging. If you noticed a skill deficit while pursuing a goal, make attaining those skills a goal for the future. And if a goal was unrealistic, make sure that the new goals reflect your organizational realities and time constraints in a better manner. So to just sum it up, I'll just talk about the key points. That goals should emerge from the strategy of the enterprise. Goals should have a top-down or the bottom-up approach, whichever your organization feels comfortable. Effective goals must be recognized as clear, important, specific, measurable, achievable, and supported by appropriate rewards. Then you have to prioritize, focus people and resources on goals that represent the greatest value. And then you have to convert these goals into realities through proper steps, break down each goal into specific tasks, plan the execution, gather the resources that you need, and then execute the plan. And always be result oriented. Once you accomplish a goal, celebrate and then learn from your experience. Then the next thing and last thing that we're going to talk about in this session is about metrics. So there are two types of metrics that we try to use. One is the variable metric and other is the attributes. So variable measures we should use when your goal is easily quantifiable, when there is an exact number associated with your goal. Like in your case, Amritesh, it was a sales target of 200 crores. So that is a variable measure. An attribute is a qualitative thing. There is no clear value that you can identify with the goal. That if your team has undergone a training, then it's a clear yes or no answer. So you cannot associate it with a variable. So some of the goals are associated with a variable metric and some of the goals are associated with a attribute metric. So variables could be number, percentage, time, cost, speed, and attributes are typically yes, no, complete, incomplete, proceed, abort. So you should try to see whether your goals are easily evaluated with variables or with an attribute measure. But having a measure is very important. Either a variable or an attribute measure is what you should aim for. So now working together on the development goals. So development goals should address the competencies and skills the employees need to grow in their current roles. And we have to consider the employees' career aspirations and the organizational future needs. So there are these four questions that we can ask in order to grow better at the goal setting thing. Focusing questions for the defining skills, that what competencies or skills do I need to master? Where do I improve my contribution or expand my scope in my current role? How do I progress towards my career aspirations? So once you're able to answer these questions, you would be able to figure out that what do you need to make yourself better at the skill set. Then focusing questions for using the skills today. How will I use my competencies today in my current role? How will my growth contribute towards the better results for my team? This will help you really become a good and a contributive employee, one who is value creating employee through whatever work he does. And then focusing questions for building the skills for tomorrow. This is your responsibility, preparing yourself for the skills that you need for tomorrow. How will mastering these competencies or skills prepare me for an expanded role and a responsibility, or for the step up roles? For example, if you should go for an MBA, then that is something that you should decide. That is your skill for tomorrow. Then focusing questions for developing a roadmap. What steps do I need to get there? So once you have identified where do you want to go, you identify the action plan and associate them with the timeline, start date, end date, and develop the proper plan in action, and then work on the execution part. So I hope this is clear to all. Okay, so that's about it in this session. So there is an assignment which I think none of you have attempted yet. So please do that this week. So I'll start with the evaluation by Friday next week. So before that, you should please work on the assignment. And then there's a second assignment also uploaded. So you can work on that also. So I've tried to cover both the assignments in today's class. So you're well equipped to attempt on them, and go through these slides and the recordings if you have not seen them. So they'll help you work on the assignments. And if you have any questions, feel free to post them on the discussion forums. I'll be happy to answer them. So if you have any more questions, we can take them now. Okay, then meet you next week. Have a happy and a safe Diwali, and all the best. See you next week.